This is the story of Dot. Dot is a very lonely period. She does not know where she belongs in the whole world of sentences. One day, she decides she needs to stop waiting around on a big blank page and bounce her way to finding her place in the world. This is the story of Dot's journey to find her place. Dot first comes upon a very tall T. He is so tall, she cannot even see beyond him to the rest of the sentence. She looks up and asks shyly, "Excuse me, Mr. T? Do you know where I could belong?" The T slowly looked down at her and said, "I'm sorry, little lady, but you do not belong up here at the beginning of the sentence with the initial capital letter like me. You need to find the end of the sentence." Dot smiled weakly, but thanked him for his help. But she had another question. "Pardon me for asking, sir, but what kind of word are you anyway?" The T straightened up and then aligned his other two letters properly and said with pride, "I am an article. My brother articles are a and an. We all indicate simple specifics about nouns. We do a very important job. Now be on your way, dear, to find your place." Dot grinned. She hoped she too would find her place and be so proud of her job. She bounced on a little. The next two words Dot happened upon were tall and willowy, but the strangest thing was in between them. She already knew what adjectives were. They described nouns, but she had no idea what the little hooked segment sitting near the bottom of the line could be. So she asked, "Excuse me, I'm sorry if it's rude, but what are you?" The comma looked at her first with slight confusion, then with kindness. The comma explained, "I'm a comma. I do many odd jobs in a sentence. I separate clauses, separate lists of words, divide dependent clauses, and sit between two adjectives that describe the same word, like I am doing now, as well as many other things. I love the variety of my job." "Oh," Dot began, "I think I only do one job." She seemed somewhat upset, but the adjectives chimed in together saying, "Yes, but the job is very important. Without you, we would never make a sentence at all." That encouraged Dot, so she bounced along with newfound determination. Dot did not need to go very far. It was actually just another space, until she found some more words. This time she recognized what some of them were. The words were tree, bent, down, low. She bounced right up with confidence and said, "I know what you are, tree. You're a noun. And I know what you are, bent. You're a verb." Her confidence dwindled, though, because she did not know what down and low could be. When she stopped so abruptly, they smiled in unison and explained themselves. Down began first. "I am an adverb. I modify verbs like bent here." "Oh, that makes sense," Dot replied, then turned towards Low, who said, "And I am an adjective. I can describe either a noun or an adverb. Right now, I'm helping out my friend down here." Dot smiled appreciatively and asked, "Do I belong here with you, friends?" After Low, Tree spoke again and said, "Sorry, a period doesn't go here because another phrase follows us. Try rolling on a little farther." Dot thanked him for their help and then continued on her merry way. "The last words told me that you are a phrase. Is that true?" Dot began as she bounced towards the words "in the breeze." In began, "Yes, of course we are, indeed. See, I am a preposition. There are many of us, but I am one that is used quite often. We begin phrases called prepositional phrases. Breeze is my object, she is a noun, and the is her article. I and my other prepositions are very useful. We are modifiers. You will find us everywhere." Dot could see that In was very proud of her job, but wanted to find her own place, so she cut in. "I am so happy for you and your functions, but could I just slip in after Breeze there so I could have a place too?" Breeze chimed in at this time and said, "Normally that would be fine, but someone has already taken that place, and if you ask me, he is a very odd punctuation to be sure. You should ask him to explain himself." That was just what Dot intended to do. She was so close to having her place to have it taken away by another punctuation. Dot was in a sour mood now, so she began a bit too rudely. "Excuse me, but what in the world do you think you are doing at the end of my sentence?" The startled punctuation looked at her, trying to figure out what she meant. The recognition finally dawned across his face, and he said, "This is not the end of the sentence. I am a semicolon. I go between two closely related, independent clauses. I belong here to keep the reading moving instead of pausing to start a new thought. I'm sorry, you belong at the very end of the sentence." The anger had subsided from Dot's face, and she understood, and she apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, Mr. Semicolon. I didn't know. Thank you. I'll be on my way now." As Dot bounded off, he called after her, "Not to worry, my little punctuating friend. You will find your place soon." Dot is able to pass by some words with simply a friendly greeting because she knows what they are. She passes, "That breeze swept up." That is an article. Breeze is a noun. Swept, a verb. Up, her adverb. Dot is happy that she is beginning to recognize the parts of a sentence, but is still anxiously awaiting the time she would discover where she belongs. As she is bouncing along, Dot runs straight into another uppercase letter. This catches her by surprise. She looks up at the big M and asks, Miss M, why are you here in the middle of the sentence?" The M, beginning the word Mariana's, simply explained that she was a proper noun because she represented a particular person and deserved a capital letter. This made sense to Dot, but she still had another question. "Why do you have a punctuation mark in the middle of your word?" This time the punctuation replied. He said, "I am an apostrophe. I help words show possession. Sometimes I am the very last thing in a word. Sometimes I go before an S. There are some rules about where I go and when." Dot was happy to know that this was not some kind of rogue punctuation mark, but that he was indeed fulfilling his job dutifully. Dot said goodbye to these words, bouncing past the noun hair, saying she was off to find her place in the sentence. Next, Dot found a word she did not know. Without even needing to be asked, and explained, "I am a conjunction. I link together phrases and clauses. It's an important job, but people seem to always look past me and just keep bounding by." Dot was a little sad to hear that Anne felt unappreciated, but she knew that every part of the sentence was important. Behind Anne was she, Smiled. They were talking joyfully. She was telling Smiled that being a pronoun was positively the best thing in the world. Dot interrupted and said, "I'm sorry for eavesdropping, but what is a pronoun and why is it the best thing in the world?" She somewhat haughtily explained that pronouns stand in the place of nouns when they are being overused, and thus pronouns can be used in a million different ways. Dot smiled and was happy to have this new information, but already knew she didn't fit in this place in the sentence, so she bounced past the pronoun and on to the next part of the sentence. Dot met another in that moment. Before the cheerful preposition could begin talking, Dot spoke, "I met one of your sisters earlier in the sentence. She taught me all about prepositional phrases, but I was wondering if maybe this time I could belong at the end of this phrase." Once again, In was cut off before she could begin speaking, as her object, Sunshine, spoke first, saying, "Why, of course, dear! The and I were wondering when our punctuation would show up. We are so glad you are here to complete the sentence." Dot had finally found her place, and she was thrilled. She bounded over to the end of the sentence, next to Sunshine, and settled in, content with her job of finishing up a beautiful and carefully written sentence. What Dot didn't know yet was that her cousin's exclamation and question mark could really spice up a sentence. Together, the three of them could make a beautiful and wonderful and exciting paragraph. The story of Dot was inspired by the creative musings of my older sister Hannah while she was in middle school. I am so glad that she has finally found a place on the page and a place in my classroom. If you want to continue to learn with Dot and understand some of the things that she has learned as well, try using some of these websites.